the same as yours, Jim. A giant head has entered Earth's gravity, triggering climate change and natural disasters we thought were impossible for at least another 8 years.
Let's not make this political, Terry. Do we know what this giant head wants?
Show me what you got!
Jim, you heard them said, show me what you got.
Show me what you got! I want to see what you got!
Oh boy, time to go, Morty.
Where?
The Pentagon. I mean, not the Pentagon. The lame one here on Earth.
Welcome to the Objective Secure Podcast. My name's Mike.
Hi, I'm Emma.
This is episode 40, Show Me What You Got. We're going to be doing a kind of a history of episode today to talk about where show, or the Southern Hemisphere Open, has come from, and where we're hoping to take it over the next couple of years as well.
Oh, are we going down that rabbit warren?
Well, we might as well. We've got an episode to fill here.
Yeah, but we're going to be strict and stick to an hour today.
Well, if you've listened to the last couple of episodes, you know that hasn't worked.
No, but we
It
haven't.
hasn't worked in about 10, to be perfectly honest. I think we've been under an hour in the last...
Stop jabbering and focus.
This year, at least.
So, SHO, show, Southern Hemisphere Open.
Yep, we're going to talk about that in the main topic of the episode. I'm also going to include the 2 ads that we've recorded instead of the...
Oh, God.
Instead of the music breaks that we have in between the segments for this episode, just so you can have a laugh at our expense. The Blood Bowl one will be straight after this, and then the generic one, which will be running on a whole bunch of different channels and podcasts around the world, will be after the main topic. So
Great.
I wasn't going to tell you, but I thought I might as well now.
Awesome.
So instead of our regular musical interludes, you're going to hear the 2 of us hamming it up for the Blood Bowl one, and then a bit more of a corporate one in the second break. So off the back of the last episode, though, with 3 hours of Gene Stealer cult conversation, we're going to switch it up and start talking about, like I've just said and Emma said, where show came from and why we do it, and some of the progress we've seen over the last couple of years and what you can expect for 2019, and then some of the plans we've got going forward for 2020 and beyond. In the meantime, though, we have had only one real event to talk about, which was hosted at the Varsity Project in Morley on the second Monday, 15th
yeah.
of April. Where
Which may make it the third Monday, I believe.
I'm not sure.
I think it's the third, yep.
In any case, we were approached by Caleb, who wanted to run a kind of a club night out of the restaurant/bar. He's a gamer himself, has just gotten back into playing Kill Team, and he came to us and said, hey, can we do a deal and work something out? And we did that, and we didn't really know what to expect with that particular event. We packed up enough terrain for about 18... probably could have managed 20 in a pinch, but we had about enough for 18 tables. And
which was good, because guess how many people came?
yeah, well, I think he and I were both kind of hoping for around the 20 mark, and anything over that would have been fantastic.
20 people.
Yes, 20 people.
Yeah.
And that day was actually the premiere of Game of Thrones Season 8.
And it was disgusting.
And the weather was apocalyptic. It was torrential rain.
I wouldn't say it was apocalyptic, but it wasn't.
You weren't driving at 80 k's an hour on Tonkin Highway with a 1-ton trailer. It wasn't fun.
No.
But it was bad. So we were both kind of going, high teens. If we can crack 20, that'd be great. And when I walked in about an hour before I was due to be there, because I wanted to have enough time to know where I could put the trailer and where the tables were, and we hadn't really set up and done anything at this venue, so we didn't really know what to expect. There were already about 10 War Machine players sat waiting patiently, having dinner and drinks, and there were a couple of 40k guys already there. And by the time that Dave and Richard turned up, who'd both said, look, we're happy to come down and help set up and hopefully get games ourselves, we must have had at least 20 plus players hanging out waiting. So we set up 5 tables for War Machine and 6 6x4s, primarily for 40k because they were the players I saw. And very quickly took over the back end of the restaurant to the point where by 9 o'clock we had taken over the restaurant. Most of the other diners were gone by about 8:30, and yeah, it was probably 50 people as part of that community, 36 actively playing, plenty more hangers on, and people who just come down for a drink and to have a night out. We were really happy. Caleb seemed super happy at the end of the night, so we're hoping to see this become a more regular thing. But we have to thank Varsity for having us and giving us the space. So if you want to jump on Facebook, it's Varsity Project Morley is the Facebook page. If you want to go and give any feedback if you came along for the night, or
Suggest to some of the other Varsity projects that they should have one as well.
Yeah. From what I understand, the Morley one is the biggest space, but there are 5 varsities around Perth. So with a bit of luck, you might see us at another one in the future. Probably not till post-show, to be perfectly honest. But
definitely not till post-show. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get into Morley again between now and show.
Hopefully we can do Morley in May, but we'll see.
Caleb's on leave, so
he is at the moment, yes. But that was a cool night. We finished up, I think I was back in the car about 11:30, which was pretty good.
Something like that.
And yeah, great turnout, great night. A few people raced home from work, watched Game of Thrones on Foxtel or however they accessed it, and then jumped in the car and came out straight afterwards. So yeah, good night of fun and fairly casual. And like I say, we had a group of really positive, well-behaved players who didn't cause any ruckus. And I think we got a few interesting looks from the casual diners and patrons there. But we had kids coming over and checking out the signs and the models, and parents kind of wandering past before they left with those kids. So who knows, we might have at least created some interest for them to go and investigate more about tabletop gaming. So that'd be good.
Yeah.
We've also been going here, there and everywhere over the last couple of weeks in Perth to the different game stores and dropping off flyers and organising a whole bunch of show paraphernalia.
Yeah, not as much as we should have, to be honest. But
no, Easter's really thrown a spanner in it. We lost a few days there, and then school holidays on top of that has sort of put us in a position where we're having to work around having kids at home.
Yes, although big shout out to my parents who are yet again stepping up above and beyond and caring for our kids more often than we would
so that we can record this for starters.
So we can do as much work as possible towards show.
Yeah.
And record this.
But in terms of what's been happening on a more global scale, we've seen I think it was the Dallas GT recently.
I was actually just thinking sticking local for a little bit. We've just had the heats for Best in the West painting competition.
Yes, we have. The finalists were released for the individual stores. I think all of them are out this morning now. There was Fremantle still missing.
Just waiting on Fremantle, but that's out now.
The pictures have been released there, which is great.
Yeah.
Some really high quality paintwork there across all the stores. So the finals, I think, are this weekend, I believe.
I'm going to be honest, I'm not sure.
I think the finals are this weekend.
I think so as well, but I can't be sure.
So we'll preemptively congratulate all the winners from the heats. And
congratulations, I think, to everyone who managed to actually get a model completed and submitted.
Yeah.
It actually takes a lot of time, energy, dedication, effort, skill to get to get a model finished on time for a competition.
Yeah.
And so, so well done to everyone who actually managed that, and big congratulations to the winners of each of the different categories for the stores, and good luck going into the finals. Yeah,
there was a Youngblood entry that I saw a comment on from one of the winners from Baldivis. The actual entrant was in the Games Workshop Perth store. Sam Meakin was his name. Did an Orc Deathcopter with sort of flames down the body and on the wings, and there's a checker pattern on the wing, on the propeller, I should say, and pretty amazing for a Youngblood. I'm not 100% certain what the category requirement was for Youngblood. I think it was under 12s.
No.
Or was it under 16s?
I think it was under 16.
In any case, it was pretty friggin' amazing to see a young hobbyist put that much effort. There's clearly a lot of effort gone into this. There's a little checker pattern on the missiles on the tip of the Deathcopter. I'll see if I can grab the photos and we'll chuck them in the show notes on the website. There was also a Masters category this year, which was the same miniature for every entrant.
Ah, okay.
To basically kind of show off how good you could paint. Not necessarily what you're used to painting, but a specific miniature. So this was a Nurgle champion. I'm sure there's a proper name for it, but really nicely executed for all of the entrants there and all the winners. There's a huge range. There's obviously they do 40k and AOS miniatures in there, which is great. And I mean the Tabletop Mafia took away quite a few awards down from the Baldivis area. I think
they got
4
3.
or 5.
Well, they got 3. It was 3 of them. Took 5 out of the 6.
Yeah, they took quite a few.
No, maybe 5 out of 7.
What was also really awesome to see was Beyond Games and Hobby down in Bunbury being able to step in and be part of the competition.
Be able to host a heat down there,
which is great. So it gave a lot of chances for the Beyond Hobby community to show off what Bunbury has to offer. The large 40k miniature was taken away by Gwen Reed. I'm assuming that's the way you say her name. Or I'm assuming it's a her.
I would say so.
Really lovely Hive Tyrant, flying Hive Tyrant.
Honestly, these models are just amazing. So we have to say thank you to Marcus Clay, who's got all of the winning models from all of the different stores and has collated them all in the West Oz Miniature Painters group. So it certainly made our life easier when we've been trying to follow along. So thanks for that, Marcus.
Yeah,
we appreciate the work that you put into that.
I think it's a public group, so I'll chuck a link in the show notes so you can go and check it out for yourselves with all the photos.
It is a public group, but I believe it's a public group for West Australian painters.
Yeah, but if it's public, then anyone can click on it and look.
All right, okay.
You don't have to join.
Right.
That's my point. So definitely worth checking out some of the amazing paint jobs that have appeared for the finals. So, as Emma said, congratulations to everyone who entered and to those who made it through to the final judging round. In other painting stuff, our son's been painting, which is exciting for me and potentially horrifying for you, I guess.
Well, I don't know. I think they're all converted now. So our youngest daughter was devastated last night, and apparently there were only 2 things she'd wanted to do with the day yesterday. She'd wanted to play out in the studio and she'd wanted to paint her models. And she didn't get to do either of them.
So I've got 3 of the Easy Build Age of Sigmar Stormcast, which I gave her assembled and said, paint how you like. And it's 6. The first one was pale blues and reds and all sorts, and the second one's something similar. The third one, because she helped me build them, she didn't quite press the front and back together enough. So there's a gap in the shoulder pads.
That's right, they're just like wings.
So I'm actually going to fill that for her so she's got a smooth surface. So that's okay.
Yeah, when I asked her which model she wanted to paint, she looks at me like I'm a total idiot and goes, my tournament models. My mistake.
And then we picked up a copy of, I picked up a couple of copies of issue 1's Conquest magazine.
I noticed how that changed from we picked up a copy to I picked up a couple of copies.
It was only 2 and they were $5.
Yeah.
And they were really good value. The 3 paints alone were $20. So I gave 1 to our son and very quickly that's disappeared because he's now got both sets. And then he pinched a couple of Marines out of my Dark of Imperium box and I showed him how to build them and he built them to a pretty surprising standard given his inexperience and age. And then I took him down to Warhammer Baldivis and Sarah gave him a painting lesson and that was just basically not taint him with some of my bad habits that I've acquired over the last 25 plus years of miniature painting. Now he's acquiring them anyway, but he still refuses to put the brush in his mouth, so that's a good sign.
Sadly, I've started doing that. When I was painting Easter eggs with our youngest, I did find myself putting it in.
Nasty.
Yeah.
At least these are water-based acrylics.
Oh, no, they were water-based acrylics.
Oh, that's not too bad. But he painted his first Ultramarine, and then Sarah said to him, you did a really good job, and he did. For first miniature, he did fantastically. And then she said, you're going to paint your Conquest Marines Ultramarines? And he went, no, I want to paint them green as salamanders. So he's then come home and we put together a project box for him and he's painted the first combat squad of 5 Primaris. And he's done a pretty impressive job. So I'll get some photos of those and I'll probably go on the main Facebook page at some point when he's finished them. But he's just got to paint the bases and finish the purity seals on them and they're basically done. So he's painted 5 of them. It's probably only taken him probably an hour a Marine, if that.
And as much as you joked and said that I would be horrified by this, I thought that Warhammer 40k was an expensive hobby. And I'm not saying that it's not an expensive hobby, But our son is Lego mad, and he buys, he gets Lego sets for birthdays and Christmases and things like that. They're between $70 and $150 each. He builds them. It takes him, 2-3 hours?
No, not even that, depending on the kit.
Depending on the kit. So for the biggest kits can take him up to 3 hours perhaps. And then he puts them on a shelf. So I kind of think $150, if he's using that for 3 hours and then it goes on a shelf just to collect dust and spider webs, then, $150, what can he buy for that? And then the amount of time it takes to assemble and paint, and then he gets to play with them afterwards.
And he's already asked me to teach him how to play the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's a good idea for you to teach him how to play the game, but...
I'm going to give him the free download rulebooks and whatnot from the Games Workshop website, and then I'll sit down with him and go through it step by step.
Yeah.
And then I was going through the Conquest magazine with him, and our oldest child picked it up and went, "Oh, I like those green ones," which were the Death Guard.
Yeah.
And our son turned his nose up at them. "Oh, no, they're disgusting. I don't like them with tentacles and stuff. That's ridiculous." And she thought they were awesome, so now she's building 3 of the Death Guard, which now means that if we get a subscription, we get to keep the terrain for tournaments.
Still saying if.
I haven't done it yet.
Oh, that surprises me.
And then I'll pillage a few bits out of the Primaris section when they come through, because there's a couple of models there I want. And Lachlan's already pillaging out of Dark Imperium, so it's fair. And then, we'll have a little family scenario where we've got multiple armies.
Oh, yeah, because we need more armies in this house.
They're 2 armies I don't collect.
That's something that I've often thought, oh, geez, I wish we had more armies.
I don't play Death Guard and I don't play Space Marines.
Why don't you show them some of the ones you do play?
Because they're
see
mine.
Whether there's any that they like.
No, they're mine. They're not having them. It's not happening. Come on. Anyway, we will take a quick break now.
Oh, my God. That means you're going to play that.
That means I'm going to play the Blood Bowl clip.
It's so embarrassing.
It's so good. If you've ever seen any of the Blood Bowl videos or any of the stories that came with Blood Bowl, there's Bob and Jim, the commentators, and they ham it up in the audios and they ham it up in the videos and they ham it up in the text. That was kind of the vibe we were going for. And not 100% successful.
No.
But you should at least get a laugh out of it. So you can, we'll take a quick break now. You can have a laugh at us and we'll be back to talk all things past, present and future for show. Welcome back, sports fans, to the Southern Hemisphere Open Radio.
Are you ready, Mike?
I was born ready.
Then let's get this show on the pitch.
That's right. At this year's Southern Hemisphere Open, nothing can get in the way of a head coach and his Blood Bowl.
Let's try and contain our excitement, at least until the first death.
Our Goblins are working night and day to deliver you the best games possible.
NAF are satisfied with their efforts.
And Nuffle has blessed the block dice.
Now, it's time to take to the pitch for the 3rd annual Southern Hemisphere Open.
And where is it this year?
We'll be ripping up the pitch at Claremont Showgrounds.
June 1, 2 and 3, 2019.
Check out objectivesecured.com.au for more information.
All right, it's time to talk show. The Southern Hemisphere Open.
In that case, I'll put my phone down and stop doing the work on show that I was doing while you just quickly...
did all the saves and all the rest of it?
Exactly.
So we're going to talk to you about the SHO, Southern Hemisphere Open.
Yeah, so if you're not Australian and you're listening to this, and then it's probably worthwhile noting that Australians, we shorten everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. So, and we don't realise that we're doing it.
No.
Well, I don't realise that I'm doing it.
And you're not bad at it.
No.
Like I'm shocking. I only hear it when we've gone overseas.
Yeah.
And start saying things and go, you have no idea what I'm talking about.
That's it. So we do talk about show all the time and forget that that's an acronym. SHO is the acronym for Southern Hemisphere Open. And it's
I actually want to blame that on LVO.
Why?
Well, LVO was kind of where the idea germinated.
Well, yeah. So it's sort of, I know we're talking in circles and any structure we had has gone out the window. So this sort of came by as a bit of a joke with Games Workshop Freo manager Mitch way back when in 2015 when we talked about running our first Masters and when we were doing it, and we were aiming for I think we were aiming for 70 people, and one of us, and it was probably me, made a joke about, we would get to the point where we were at, where we were equal to LVO and having 300 or 400 people there. And, and then it became just sort of this joke that we would run Southern Hemisphere Open.
Well, the whole point of the name was obviously to try and Las Vegas Open tells you where it is.
Yeah.
But there's nothing. I mean, we're in Australia here. We've got CanCon that happens in Canberra over the January Australia Day period.
Yeah, and there's BrisCon and
BrisCon's less of a convention, I suppose. Like I mean, CanCon's the benchmark for Australia at the moment, and CanCon's very comparable to LVO from the pictures I've seen. I've been to LVO. I haven't been to CanCon, but obviously the idea of having a convention in Western Australia has always been difficult because we're a long way from everywhere. We used to get Oz Comic Con, which has since not been for the last 2 years, I think. And then we have Supernova, which does the that sort of pop culture convention as well, but they're slowly winding down. I don't know whether they'll actually disappear, but the stars they used to bring over don't come anymore. So the whole idea was to kind of fit into a niche within Western Australia's hobby community, where we have things like SwanCon and GenghisCon who focus on RPGs and science fiction and writing, and less about the gaming side of things. We've got Supernova, like I just mentioned, who do a lot of the pop culture stuff. There's a cosplay convention and a manga anime style convention as well, but nothing really for tabletop.
There's a fairy convention.
Yep. We did have Games Workshop's Conflict, which happened back in the early 2000s when they were still running GTs as well. But we haven't had one of those in, I think the last one was probably 05 or 06 maybe. So there's definitely been a gap in the market. We did see a good friend of ours, Luke, try and start something similar in the late 2000s during the Ultimates tournament series that he was running, which he, I think it was called Feet of Arms or Feet to Arms, or I can't think of the actual name of it now. It's a decade ago. And I think he was very clearly focused on just the tabletop, getting people to play new games, which worked to some degree. We wanted to take the next step and try and model it off of the bigger international conventions, where they don't just give you demo games, they give you tournaments of every game, they give you painting workshops and hopefully guests and presenters and retailers, and all the clubs get to come out and show off what they do and kind of show what the whole community does.
Yeah. And I think that's where, so when we moved, so like I said, we were joking around with Mitch saying that we were going to do a Southern Hemisphere Open specifically for 40K, and then it was sort of said in semi-jest. I guess we would love to get Masters up to a point where we have 400 people coming over for it. But yeah, then people started asking if we could run events for other game systems, and we sort of started hearing about silos within the community and hearing some different thoughts and ideas around different gaming systems. So I guess some of the myths that go with the different gaming systems. And so we just thought, well, let's bring everyone together and let's show that WA does actually have a heck of a lot to offer. People talk in Perth, there's nothing ever happens in Perth. There is heaps of stuff in Perth. And ideas like you can't become a game developer if you live in Perth. You've got to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
So we want to talk to game developers and get them to come and talk to kids and say, or talk to adults and say, if you want to become a game developer, this is how you can do it here in Perth.
Absolutely.
And I guess, we want to put Perth on the map as far as being able to offer these kinds of things.
Yeah, so the goal when we first talked about it,
we still don't have a game developer, so if anybody's out there that lives in Perth.
So the first one ran in September of 2017. What most people don't realise is the planning for that started somewhere around June 2016.
Yeah.
It was well over a year in the process of what it was going to look like. And up until the day, we still didn't really know what it was going to look like.
No. And I'm going to be honest, I was so busy for that first show, I don't even know what it did look like.
We've got some photos.
Somewhere.
They're on the Facebook page, because we had a friend of ours living in WA at the time who we gave complete access to the OBSEC Facebook page. And he wandered around taking photos and all sorts of stuff, which was awesome. But the first hurdle for the event was actually finding a venue in WA that proved to be a significant hurdle, because we kind of go from community halls that are 200, 300, 400 square metres, and then we jump to these monolithic convention centre style venues that are tens of thousands of square metres, and the rent goes from a couple of $1,000s to...
Well, they're not tens of thousands, 2,000
No,
square metres.
if you go the full convention centre, which even Supernova doesn't use, but the full convention centre would be 20,000 square metres. It's huge.
Yes.
But you're also paying six figures at that point. Mm-hmm. Very scary prices.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really achievable because it's just the two of us. We self-funded the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And we had to hope that the community would come out with enough tickets and essentially get us to zero again, so that it didn't impact us financially speaking. We found a venue in Ascot Racecourse, which is the Perth Racing Commission owns, I think it is.
Yep.
And the venue in question is in the off-season when we were using it in September. Mm-hmm. And for what we wanted for the first couple, it served a really good purpose. It was, well lit and air conditioned and all lovely carpets, and it had all been refurbed.
Oh my goodness, the carpets! That for the first year, that's what everyone.
Yeah, we got a lot of complaints about the carpets.
They didn't like the carpet, the pattern of the carpet.
Brand new. But what it did give us is an opportunity to get it off the ground at a price that was only 5 figures instead of 6. So,
it was very nearly 6.
It wasn't 6 is the point. Yeah. So we ran it in 2017. We were kind of pushing the envelope a little bit for 2017's launch because we kind of poached ideas from all over the world. Mm-hmm. I flew to Vegas for LVO in the very start of 2017, and basically stole a bunch of ideas from having a wander around. And
I prefer the term "was inspired by."
Okay, let's go with that then.
That sounds better, doesn't it?
I was fortunate enough to meet Reese and Frankie from Frontline Gaming to talk to them a little bit about it, what they've been doing with LVO and how they do what they do. Mm-hmm. And I came back, and I'd taken videos and some photos and all sorts of stuff, and I knew that obviously they're in Vegas, and that's a destination all of its own. Mm. But it did give us some ideas about some of the logistical issues and some of the stuff that we hadn't really thought about. So with all of that in mind, we were fortunate to have some volunteers in the form of some of the TOs to help run us some of the events.
Yep.
And we had some good friends basically put their hand up and offer to help at the door and be runners for us. And the staff that first year at Ascot were fantastic. The manager that we had at the time, she was fantastic and made sure we got fed and hydrated, and the whole thing went off. I'm sure there were lots of problems over that weekend.
Yeah, there were so many. It was nowhere near what we had hoped to achieve, but it was a start. And I think that it's important to realise and recognise how much actually goes into organising something like this that we just did not even think about.
We didn't have a clue.
So,
and I'm sure we still miss stuff.
Yeah,
but
definitely. Because if you've never done it,
the
saying is you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And we did not know a lot.
Yeah. Which you couldn't possibly have known without doing it.
No, and there's a big difference between jumping from running, WA Masters for 40K where we had
70 players
to running something where we had 3,500 players come in over 3 days for 17 different formal events. We had clubs involved doing intro and demo games. We had a couple of retailers. We had workshops. That's a huge jump, and a learning curve doesn't even come close to describing it.
No. What we did find, we were fortunate enough that year to also manage to convince Black Library author David Annandale to come over from Canada.
Yep.
He spent more time in a plane than he did in Perth.
Yes, he did. And we appreciate that.
And he was awesome.
He's mad.
He is mad. He got a stopover in Hong Kong on the way back, where he did a day tour of Hong Kong while he was there. That was quite cool to be able to have him agree to do that for us, and we flew him over, and he spent, I think I worked it out to be It was 26 hours to get here and 36 or 38 back, including the stop in Hong Kong. And he flew in at about midnight on the Friday night.
No, he didn't fly in at midnight on the Friday night.
No, it was 10 o'clock, wasn't it?
He flew in at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to interrupt this for a little anecdote that I've probably shared before. But so
anyway, he was on the ground for less than 48 hours, basically.
Yeah. So
he was back on a plane 10 o'clock Sunday night.
It's the night before show. We've done Bump In. And for Bump In,
we weren't ready.
No, not at all. So we'd got there. We'd started at 6 o'clock. We'd had to go and hire a truck, come back to our place, fill the truck, drive to Ascot. We got a couple of helpers there, but really very few.
Yeah, we had a handful drop in throughout the day for an hour or two.
Yeah, but some of them just came for a chat. Seriously, do not come for a chat. We don't have time to talk. So that was actually frustrating for me. But anyway, so we'd got a couple of people who were actually there helping, but really it was you, me, and my dad who were there for the whole day. Oh, Marcus came up as well. We did have some helpers who came, and I really appreciate that. So we got kicked out. We were supposed to be able to be there till 8, but we got kicked out at 6. We were nowhere near ready, so I was in a state of less than calm. And we decided to stay at a hotel, so we didn't have much travel time, which was a good call. I had managed to leave our overnight bag at the venue.
Yep, locked behind security, so we couldn't access it.
So we were at the hotel, basically in the clothes that we'd been wearing all day. We were grimy and disgusting. I had a shower.
We got an upgrade, which meant we actually had a washing machine and dryer.
Yeah, so we had a shower, chucked all of our clothes in the washing machine, and were just basically wandering around in towels. Actually, we were just sitting there, not able to move. But and then I looked at my watch and went, "Oh, are you going to the airport to pick up David?" And Mike goes, "Oh, yeah, I don't have to be there till midnight." I'm like, "Oh, no, you do. His plane lands at 10. This was at maybe 9 o'clock, 9:30.
And we were only a couple of k's from the airport.
We were. It was only a 2-minute drive from the airport. But our clothes were in the washing machine and it was still going. So we had to try and work out how to stop the washing machine, get the clothes out and put them in the dryer, because otherwise Michael was going to go and collect
bathrobe.
A Black Library author from the airport wearing nothing but a towel and a pair of thongs.
Yep.
Welcome to WA.
We take things real casual here.
Yeah. Clothes are optional.
But yeah, so for the record, I did pick him up fully dressed.
Yes. We did manage to get the clothes out and put them in the dryer, and relatively dry.
Yeah.
But you were covered.
It was
so
fine.
That was all good.
But yeah, he was back on a plane within 48 hours.
Yeah.
So we really appreciate that he spent so long travelling to get to see so little of Perth, to then fly home again.
Yeah, and it was a bit embarrassing actually, because we took him out and
everything was closed at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night.
Yeah, 8:30. I think
it was open later on the Sunday night, which is when we actually got our main meal and went out with him.
Yeah, that was not a nice meal, but that's a different story.
That was fine.
It was awful.
Anyway.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, where we started. The idea was that we wanted to, to kind of dispel some of the myths that nothing ever happens in Perth. We wanted to bring together gamers with clubs. So our idea was to try and get as many clubs as possible in the same space, because I think when you play a certain game, you think that it's only you and your 4 friends that are playing that in the whole of WA, and we wanted to try and introduce people to new players and to, opportunity to play against different people in different environments, promote some of the clubs. And it also
means that if you want to play a game that's not as mainstream as some of the major ones, but you know that there's a group of them that get together at a club that you don't frequent, it gives you an opportunity to go.
Pop in there. So we wanted to bring the clubs together. We had wanted to bring some retailers in there as well, because same kind of thing. You get used to only going to the one place, don't realise that this particular store also stocks,
different
whatever.
Things.
So we wanted to bring those people in together. We wanted to bring together role-playing, board games and tabletops. And the first year we failed quite dismally at that.
I think the first year, day one, was okay for the RPG side of things. But it's certainly an area that we weren't strong with in regards to how to organise it and how to engage with that community.
Oh, well, we had Matt McHale, who was, did so much towards helping for that, but we didn't do it well.
No.
He did. We didn't.
and that's sort of part of the learning that we moved on from 2017 into 2018. Before we go to 2018, though, the other reason that the name The Show was quite apt was the weekend that we first ran the event was actually the start of the Perth Royal Show.
Yeah.
Which is run by the Royal Agricultural Society here in Western Australia. And it's basically a big carnival for 10 days with roller coasters and a sideshow alley where you can buy show bags. And they show off, like they do a lot of horse like cattle stuff. And
agricultural.
Yeah. So we were actually opening the same long weekend that they opened the Perth Royal Show.
Yeah.
And there was a flippant comment made by me around the idea of a show bag, because when you go to the Perth Royal Show, you go and buy these hugely expensive bags which have questionable dollar to return ratios in them. So we wanted to do our own SHO bag, show bag.
Yep.
And I took inspiration from the VIP bags that were being done at LVO. And having been to it at the start of 2017, I actually didn't realise that a VIP show bag even existed. So when I bought my tickets, I could have bought a show bag and didn't. And it was only when I got there that I realised that was actually a thing. So we took that idea and ran with it and created our own, with the idea of being, getting stockists to put, exclusive miniatures in them, or giveaways or discount vouchers, branded promo gear. The first year's bag was actually like a laptop bag that was all embroidered. Had a T-shirt, it had a hat and stubby holder and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces in it. And we took that idea for year 2 and turned it into a carry case.
Yes.
Which was a headache all of its own. But again, really well received by the players who chose to go down that road and spend the extra money. The goal was always to give you more dollars of value than the actual bag cost. So... and we were very fortunate to get extra sponsors on last year to put more in the bag, and it looks like we're going to have even more this year, which is exciting. We'll have to see what the actual bag looks like, though, because we got our first sample late last week, and it wasn't the bag
we didn't like it.
No, we didn't like it.
So back to the drawing board with that.
Yep, that's my job for this afternoon.
Add it to the bottom of the list.
Yeah. So 2018, we were very fortunate to build another relationship with a gamer by the name of Micah. He is a very active writer for the RPG community. His focus is primarily on Adventurers League for D&D 5th edition. And he wrote his first module, which was published under Common Created Content for 2018, which was really exciting. So he did an amazing job of engaging with the RPG community that we couldn't. He deserves so much respect from that community for what he's done and continuing to do. So we look forward to what 2019 has for show for RPGs, the schedule we hopefully will have in the next little while. We've also, off the back of the first year, had a really good reception from the painting workshops that we hosted, which were done primarily by Games Workshop. And the second year saw us expand how many workshops we did do. In that vein, we also had our first independent artist come in and do a workshop. So Aidan did a fantastic job last year. He's
had Wayne doing the airbrushing,
advanced airbrushing. He's there for 2017 and 18, and hopefully we'll be able to confirm him for 2019. So the goal was always to offer these workshops to varying degrees of skill set. So you can come and learn how to do the basics and sort of the core Citadel range of paint process. You can learn airbrushing, you can learn blending, you can learn freehand, you can learn all the different technicalities. We're also going to have our friends at Little Robot doing some weathering and some very specific style workshops around Gunpla and Gundam this year, which we haven't had them do before.
Yeah, so one of the ideas with the workshops that I spoke about on the last Facebook Live as well was that we're bringing a whole heap of different game systems together. Now, with those different game systems, there sometimes come different techniques for painting, but those techniques are transferable. So what we wanted to do was actually to try and create workshops where we can share these transferable skills. And so Little Robot, obviously with the Gunpla, those same techniques easily transferred to some of the, tabletop gaming models.
Absolutely. The panel lining stuff that I've been doing in the lead up to LVO and now, obviously, the last couple of years came from Gunpla. And I'm sure there's plenty of opportunities to steal more of the techniques that are used so commonly in that hobby and transfer them onto...
Again, learn from, not steal.
Well, the opportunity exists in reverse, where the way they tend to paint their miniatures is a different style, and there's an opportunity for them to combine with their existing skill sets and create new styles of cell shading and some of the metallic effects. So, yeah, the 2018 one, same venue, and it's fair to say was easier on us. I think, mostly.
We learned a lot from the first year. We improved on it. We made some mistakes that there was, we didn't have enough people helping with TOing events last year. I ran for 5 days straight again, and we had some amazing people help out. And
the helpers at the start and
bump
during
in and bump out,
and the end was amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think part of that was no one kind of understood what we were hoping to do the first year.
No.
And we didn't do a good job of articulating what that was or trying to inspire people with the vision that we had.
And we're making that same mistake again this year.
Yeah. Whereas the second year, we had all these helpers take time off work and come and help set up. And even over the weekend, Bodhi was fantastic and Tara was helping again.
Mike.
Mike Sloan. These people gave up their own time to come out and try and help us get the event to the point where it was a success.
Yeah.
And like you say, I think we improved significantly in year 2. We also hosted the Australian Team Championships for 40K in year 2.
Yes.
Which saw a whole bunch of East Coast players come over to see what we do. And we've actually had a great deal of support from those players. We even had one of them suggest that we should turn a 40K event into a tour, or even a 3-day event over that long weekend, and then try and get it as the destination for the end of year style event for Australia, which would be great.
Yeah.
It's probably a year or two off yet, but it's although to be fair, something we did learn from from year 1 going into year 2 was we actually ran a 2-day 40K event in the first year.
Yeah.
And it had a negative impact on a number of the other games.
So what was interesting with that was that we'd actually spent a lot of time talking about it, and we decided that we weren't going to do 2-day events. We were going to do 1-day events.
Yep.
And then I'm not sure what happened, but somehow we got talked into making it a 2-day event.
Well, the AOS event was 2 days.
And
then
the Masters event.
And then 40K went 2 days as well, which probably did a disservice to both games because we had players play one or the other.
Yeah. And the purpose of it is to try and give people the opportunity to play in multiple different events.
Yeah, or like one of the other pieces of feedback we had was I really wanted to play 40K, but I also wanted to do X workshop or Y workshop. So the second year was nothing but single-day events, which allowed players to then, if they wanted to do a workshop, we tried to make sure that the major systems had 2 or even 3 days of gaming. Yeah. So there was a 40K event that happened each day last year for show. So you could still come and play 2 days of 40K if you wanted to. They were just 2 separate events.
Yeah.
And that seemed to work better for us in terms of managing resources. At the same time, though, we didn't have... Probably the biggest failing I had last year was being a bit precious with managing the TO side of things. And it wasn't until the weekend that I realised that I was meant to be running anywhere from 4 to 8 tournaments a day. And Mike Sloan, who's a younger player, did a great job of supporting me and running around and chasing things and giving time warnings and all that sort of stuff. But I'd certainly bitten off more than I could chew that weekend. Which won't be the case this year because we've had some amazing people step up and say they want to run these events because they kind of get where we're going and what we want to do.
Yeah.
So, that was probably the biggest failing for me in 2018. What was also interesting for 2018 was the retail side of things. We had more retailers than the first year. And we had a husband and wife come with a baby in a carry bag
No,
What's it called? Like the baby basket thing? What's the name for
a
it?
carry bag or a baby basket.
You know what I'm talking
Do you mean
about.
a capsule?
No, it wasn't a capsule. It was one of the soft, long... We had one with the kids when they were little. Capsule's probably a better word than bag. But
Carry bag, yeah, I think so. They did not bring their baby in a carry bag.
you know what I meant. I was hoping you'd kind of pick that up and fix that for me, but you just wanted to insult me. Anyway.
Not insult, just mock.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. So Emma and Dan from OTP Terrain came to show with very little warning.
Mm-hmm.
They brought 3 of their 3D printers with them.
They brought their only 3D printers with them.
And then by the end of the weekend, we're 6 weeks behind and had ordered 3 more. And less than a year on now, I think they've got 14 printers?
I think it might be 16.
It's in the teens, and it's only going up.
Yeah.
And they still struggle to keep up with orders because the machines only print so fast, and they're running pretty much day and night. So we've since built a really good relationship with Dan and Emma around OTP and how we engage with them with the community, and the community's really gotten behind them as well. And what's been really cool for them is it's been a lot of international support as well, where they're providing really high quality 3D printed stuff, and people are responding to that.
Yeah.
And that was really good for us because they're a local family and they're just like us. It's a husband and wife partnership, and they're just doing it from their houses. And yeah, it was really awesome to see how successful they became straight off the back of the event.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to continue to support that sort of grassroots development of companies here in WA. We've got another one this year, which we won't announce yet, because they haven't announced themselves yet. So yeah, it's exciting for us to be a part of those sorts of success stories as well. We've got more retailers coming for 2019 than we did for 2018, but 2019's presented its own challenges as well. So
1 or 2.
The biggest hurdle that we've had so far has been around the venue itself.
And the date.
Yes.
So we've run it over the September long weekend for the last couple of years. And this year, the September long weekend happens to fall on the AFL Grand Final, so the Australian Football Grand Final.
Yep.
Which we don't think is a good idea for us to try and compete with that.
No, we had last year's show was in the preliminary Grand Final the week prior, and didn't hurt us too badly.
Oh, the Saturday we had low numbers because the Eagles were playing, and the Sunday there were a fair few sore heads because the Eagles had played and won the week before. So, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to try and compete with something like that.
And it's funny how many people think, it's only the AFL Grand Final. They're gamers. They don't care about the AFL. No, it really does. Yeah,
it's interesting. I don't think that you can actually stereotype gamers as, gamers don't like sport.
No, certainly not. And the amount of players that follow the AFL Grand Finals and even the Super Bowl. I mean, in 2017, while we were at LVO, the Super Bowl happened that weekend, and there were Aussies giving up day 3 to go and watch the Super Bowl. Yeah. So it was, I mean, I only had a passing interest in it. I caught the highlights and whatnot in between the rounds, but yeah, it's definitely a factor that you can't write off in the community anymore. So yeah, we had to change the date.
So yeah, we had to decide, did we still want it to be 3 days? You were strongly pushing for it to go down to 2, but I want it to get bigger, not smaller. So that was a active debate.
She won.
Yeah.
And
it's still only 3 days. My aim is to get this to 5.
It's probably a couple of years away yet, but we'll see. So yeah, we found the only other long weekend we could, which is the June long weekend here in Western Australia. Which
interestingly had been where we had wanted to run the first show. We'd been aiming for the June long weekend in 2017. And
it didn't happen. We couldn't have the venues.
Yeah.
So we got a booking with the venue for 2019.
For Ascot.
And then promptly got on a plane and flew to Europe for a few weeks. And while we were away, we were using international SIM cards, so we didn't have our standard mobile phones. And I had to put my Australian SIM card back in the phone while we were in part of Europe that the SIM card didn't work. And got a text message while we were there from the venue saying, hey, just letting you know...
You can't have the venue anymore.
You can have the venue, but you can only be half of what we would be having, and can you please give us a call? So I've responded and said, look, we're not here at the moment. We'll get back to you. And thankfully, it was at the tail end of the trip. So when we got back to Perth, I got in touch with them and said, hey, what's the go? They said, oh, there's another booking that we've taken for that same weekend, and you can only have half the venue. And so Emma and I went away and tried to figure out whether we could make that work, and they were talking about a 50% discount on the hire, and they were going to open up some extra space, and there was an outdoor pavilion-style space they were going to give us access to, and a few other things. And we kind of had a plan to make it work, and we went back to them and said, okay, based on all this, X, Y, and Z, we can make that happen. And they said, oh, no. You can't have the main floor. You can only have upstairs. You can't have the main entrance. You can only have the upstairs. And that was the deal breaker, because the main floor was probably 50% bigger than the upstairs.
Yeah.
And so we had to find a new venue on top of the change in date. And it just so happens that when we started exploring the options, we went back to the Royal Agricultural Society's, the Perth Showgrounds, Claremont Showgrounds. And because obviously it's not the show weekend anymore, we could actually get access to the pavilions there. And we've now been able to actually secure a pavilion that is adjoining to the Perth Model Railway Expo that's happening on the same weekend. So we've got another crossover period there where there's a lot of transferable skills between the hobbies. And we're having to learn it all again from scratch.
Yes.
Because we've got a new venue on a new weekend with different challenges for the venue. We've got more space, but it's certainly a different set of hurdles for us to cross. But
you don't cross hurdles, you jump hurdles.
You cross them. If you take it slowly, you can step across them. You couldn't, you're too short, but...
They're adjustable. Anyway, yeah, there are definitely barriers that we have had to navigate.
Yeah, so coming sort of full circle about it, the whole purpose of show, though, was always about trying to showcase what is on offer and giving people the opportunity to engage in the hobby the way they want to.
And
experience parts of the hobby that they may not.
If there isn't if there isn't something available and you want it, well, create it. So that's what we did.
So this is the third year. And I think we're both looking forward to the end of it, simply because it gives us a 12 months between this one and the next one, because obviously the change from September to June has meant instead of having 12 months of lead time to plan the next one, we've had essentially what was 6 by the time we got back from the holiday.
Yeah.
And then had to try and find a new venue and so on.
Yeah.
On the upside for 2019, we've had more engagement from a lot of the manufacturers that are internationally based. Privateer Press came on last year and have done it again this year with their official tournament packs. So we're getting the proper pins again for War Machine and Hordes. We've got some of the organised play packs for X-Wing. And we've got the second annual Grand Clash from Games Workshops for Underworld.
Yes.
And
still the only place in the Southern Hemisphere to run a Grand Clash.
Yep.
Just in case you can't tell.
So there's
But sorry, I just want to touch on being quite proud of that. One of the reasons that I am quite proud of that is because it goes right back to what our goal was, and our goal was to try and create an experience for Perth and West Australian and Australian gamers that didn't exist. To try and offer something on a big scale that doesn't exist because Perth is so far. Nothing ever comes to Perth. Nothing ever happens in Perth. And we've done that. We've created something that's big enough to warrant us being able to offer the only Grand Clash, not only in Australia but in the Southern Hemisphere. They had to put an Australian tab on the Underworld's page so that we could host events.
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Look, it's great to have the I mean, we have to give a shout out to the staff at Games Workshop here in Western Australia, particularly Rye, who championed the cause in 2017 and actually got us a copy of Underworlds, the original Shadespire, before anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And there's continuing support of all the Games Workshop staff here in WA, and their continued support from Games Workshop Australia as well, who took a risk in year one in backing us in an official capacity, and came back for year 2 going, absolutely, we'll do it again, and are doing so again for year 3.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really fortunate to have the community support in the right places as well to try and get some of these things over the line, so that when we start asking for another Grand Clash, there was never a conversation around, I don't know. They just said yes. And we had a players pack within about an hour, albeit wrong, but we got it right. Because they were too enthusiastic. They went, yep, and didn't quite read all the information that was sent.
Yeah, and same thing with the organised play that we'll have this year for Kill Team as well. And it's exciting.
So as as we get more and more recognition in the wider community, it's giving us more opportunities to offer these things in WA that we don't get. So over coming years, we can hopefully start sharing some of the other organised play packs that exist for some of the games. Obviously, the Gaining Ground set for Malifaux is now a bit up in the air because of 3rd edition, but I'm sure that once we get some official word on that, we'll be able to go to them and ask them for some support. Warlord Games are offering stuff direct this year, which they haven't done previously.
It will be a registered formal event for the main bolt action event. Because we have more than 24 players. So that includes, so the winner of that gets entry into the big grand tournament for bolt action. Yeah,
so it's really good to be able to offer that sort of stuff into the community, so that we can have WA players getting, even if they don't choose to attend those sorts of invitations.
Yeah, but the fact that
we're actually getting the opportunity, it's one of the biggest problems we have with any of the rankings or any of those sorts of things, is that getting the events to qualify is half the battle.
Yeah.
So I
sat here clutching what I call my show Bible, and it's basically all the different elements of Southern Hemisphere Open that we have to organise. So I just thought I'd quickly run through some of the different elements of the event.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so we talked about venue. Part of the venue, I guess the reason I'm sharing this is for people who are potentially thinking about running events or conventions. Some of the things that I think about, and that's...
Well, I should also comment that both of our job descriptions in the past and present have been around organising events.
Nothing like this.
Nothing like this, but we both had...
At all.
Like I've done store openings and sort of gala-style events from time to time. You've hosted fundraising events, and you're the CEO of an organisation independent of us. So we've both had experience in store openings and, I suppose...
I guess what we've got experience
trade shows
is nothing to the extent of this, and we've done it with an entire team.
Yes, we've had, well, that's it. We've had essentially what it amounts to an unlimited budget. Like when I was doing it with the store openings, it was, this is what we want to achieve. Do it as cheaply as you can, but we want this outcome.
Yeah.
Anything else is not acceptable, and if that means opening the checkbook, then we open the checkbook.
Yeah. Well, no, we don't even have checkbooks.
No.
Because that's how long ago it's been for you. So when we think about venues, we also have to think about all the different furniture and equipment that we need, because that all has to be hired separately. So
tables and chairs at its very core.
That's exactly it. So how many tables are we going to need? How many chairs? Actually getting booths and rooms built for the weekend. We have to hire independent cleaners. We have to hire independent security guards. Food and drink.
That's a big bugbear for players, food and drink. The London GT really struggled with that in 2018, I think it was.
Crossed we pull it off then. This is the first year that we've had to coordinate food and drinks before, and that we've had to give the venue approximate numbers and schedules and that kind of thing. But this year, to organise food vans, and we're doing the soft drinks and the alcohol ourselves.
For those of you listening, yes, alcohol is going to be an option.
The liquor license for that today. So that's something else to think about as well. So we do need to look at who our food retailers are going to be. Obviously, we've got the different tournaments. off the top of my head, I think it's roughly 20 tournaments across 16 different gaming systems.
Yeah, we've got a couple of games that double up across multiple days, although there's a couple of narrative ones that aren't in the schedule yet, which will have to go in.
That is true. They should be going up today. But we have got tournaments across different systems that we haven't run before. So Kings of War, Team Yankee,
Adeptus
Titanicus. Then we've done
Kill Team this year as well.
I already talked about that one though. We've done the Hobbit before this year. It's changed to Middle Earth, so that's the first time that we've run a Middle Earth event. Yep. So all the different things that go with the tournaments around managing the software for that, how much terrain we need, how many players, who are the TOs, what are the players packs going to look like.
Most of that's my list for the tournament stuff. I'm trying to give you credit there in that the tournament side of things is mine, and then most of the rest of this list is largely you.
Yeah, I'm still following up on what prizes there's
I know.
going to be.
I'm not saying you're not.
I'm
I'm trying to give you credit here. Jesus Christ, woman.
Okay, fine. So all of that kind of stuff has to be thought about for the different tournaments that we're running. We will have the OBSEC booth again as well.
Yep.
Which as yet I don't have anybody manning, so I'll have to work that out.
But part of that also lets us get... so we've had miniature scenery from the East Coast give us access to stock that we can then supply to Perth.
And the Hammerhead Games
Hammerhead Games as well. We've got some stuff this year for it.
Yeah, and then vinyl battlescapes.
And any of the other merch and stuff that we'll have, as well as...
It also, that's kind of the spot where you go for first aid or to ask any questions or to buy any last-minute tickets for workshops or, any of that kind of stuff. So there's the OBSEC booth that needs to be thought of. The RPG stuff, Micah has he's been organising what's going to be running where and the volunteers that are going to be helping with that. All the sign-up sheets for that need to be organised as well. We have, little things that you need to think of like table numbers. So if you sign up to play in Intro to D&D for kids, you know that you're on table 12 at 11:20. Well, where's table 12? Little table markers that say, I'm looking for a pickup game. Ask me if you want to join in. That kind of stuff. We are still looking for volunteers for the event. Everybody who's part of this, unless they're a retailer, is a volunteer. Yep. So we're volunteers. The people who work on our door are volunteers. The people who are our TOs for the events are volunteers, because all of the money goes to paying for the venue and
pretty much
the hire and that kind of stuff.
And we should clarify, we've got longer term plans that as the event grows, we are in a position to financially remunerate people.
That is definitely our plan, because people's time is valuable and it should be remunerated.
Yeah. At the moment, though, when there isn't any money to remunerate us, let alone anyone else.
No.
That's the hurdle that we face at the moment.
Well, as soon as we start breaking even, we'll start thinking about what happens should we start generating a profit, or when we start generating a profit, I should say. So if anybody happens to be listening and wants to volunteer, please get in touch. I've got a list of jobs that I need filling. Clubs, we've invited as many clubs as we can get in touch with. So we've got Crags are coming along, Outpost are coming along.
Crags and Outpost are probably our two biggest supporters.
Yes.
And we have to thank them every year for the terrain that they've provided. And
that's it. So they do a fantastic job coming and doing intro and demo games, but they are also really generous with their support and allowing us to use their terrain and boards as well.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it without them. This year we've got NWS coming back again. I'm still not sure about Perth Miniature Gaming Group because I haven't heard back from them. I'd Crit that are coming along. Rockingham Historical Gaming are coming for the first time.
Have we heard back from Peel?
No. But now that you say that, I'm not sure if I've got in touch with them. So, yeah, Peel and Avon I haven't been able to get in touch with, I don't think. So clubs, there's space available for clubs as well. Retail space, there will be some retailers there.
Actually, we've got more retailers this year than we have previously, and we're talking...
I'm not 100% sure about that, to be honest.
Well, but
okay.
more importantly for those listening, we've got Tactics coming, we've got Good Games coming.
Yes.
OTP are returning.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously our booth again.
There is a new retailer that we
met with yesterday.
Yes.
That we can't mention.
Because he hasn't launched his business yet.
Little Robot returning for their third year in a row.
Yeah.
So there's, we're slowly getting the retail side of things cranking.
And what I guess what we don't want it to be, what I don't want it to be, I'm really passionate about this, because what I don't like about some of the other conventions is you have to pay to get in, and then when you get there, it's all about shop. Like, I don't want to have to pay to go shopping.
Yeah.
So we want to find a balance of having us available and having them present so that you know that they exist, and so that you know that if you want to play this game, then these different retailers support it, but that it's not just come for a big shopping fest.
Yeah.
So we're really passionate about making sure that there are a whole heap of different games there that you can touch and play and try, and
And if you like, then you can potentially go and engage with a retailer and get them.
Yeah, that's it. But really it's more about introducing you and making connections. And whether that's connections with systems, connections with other players, connections with clubs, or connections with retailers, or connections with us. Connections with skills. We want to create connections.
Yeah.
Then I've got stuff in here about promotion. So promoting it is really important. A booklet, because we do a booklet every year so that people know what's happening when and where.
The VIP show bag.
VIP bag. We're working on as soon as we have more information on that, apart from the fact that we hate the bag that we had
the
lined
sample
up,
that we
and
got.
that's not going to happen. We have people who work on the door. There's systems that have to go in place for that, as far as wristbands and what different things mean for different people. We have to make sure occupational safety and health is covered. So emergency exits, the first aid person, if you have people who can't be photographed during the event.
Yeah.
All that
Disability
kind of stuff.
access.
Yeah, disability access and inclusion. We are... Do I talk about that one?
Look, there's no harm in it.
We are looking at doing a swap meet this year for the first time.
Which presents its own set of unique challenges.
Yes, it does, because we haven't done it before, so they are unique. Workshops, we've got some new workshops. We've got Games Workshopper coming along, and Michael from Joondalup has picked up the...
With Ryan moving to Sydney?
Yeah, he's picked up the baton and has done a fantastic job organising some different workshops. We've got sculpting
you got some green
workshops
stuff happening for the first time.
Shane is running. G's coming back and running some workshops. Stu is running. So G's running... I know she's running a terrain workshop and another one that I can't remember, which I should, because I've just been looking
You've just
at
written
it.
the list, yeah.
Stu's coming in doing the intro to Citadel workshops as well. We've got George who's coming along and doing DIY terrain.
Yep.
Which is fantastic, because I think that terrain is something that can really make a difference to games.
The best part about his workshops, though, they're going to be somewhere between $60 and $80.
They're $80. Yeah.
But you're going to walk away with a boatload of terrain.
Well, if you do both workshops, so it's obviously $160 to do both workshops, that's enough terrain to do an entire table.
It's not a bad deal.
Well, not when you get all the skills plus the extra materials and, all the materials for that as well. It's, it's a lot of stuff it's a full day, but at the end of the day, you come out with buildings, ruins,
he did rubble,
boulders,
yeah,
a forest, a lake, a river.
And it was a good range of fairly generic terrain that'll work for most game systems as well.
Yeah, and he's worked out a way that with the building, he can show two different ways. So you can, for Infinity, where you need them like one level on top of another, that kind of thing, or for different games where you can put them next to each other. So yeah, fantastic. With that, trying to think if there's any other workshops that are new this year, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. Painting competition will be coming back again. It will be different this year in that you have to register at the event rather than doing it through the Humanitics website.
Yep.
We're looking at some different kids' activities, which will depend on whether or not I can get a volunteer to help run those. But we've spoken before on one of the episodes about Kid Hammer?
Simple Hammer.
Simple Hammer. Similar to that, where you kind of take the idea of a tabletop game, but with some kind of simplified rules.
Yeah, to try and get the kids engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole Simple Hammer thing is really great for the younger generation, where you might be a parent with a younger child who wants to kind of join in with the parents, and We've had some really cool suggestions over the last couple of years in order to help them engage with the hobby.
Yeah. Last year we had some kids' activities, which was just things like having different colouring in and jigsaw puzzles and some sort of quiet activities, so that if kids got a little bit overwhelmed, then they could move to a quiet area and parents and kids could regroup and then go back out again. This year we're planning on doing the same, but with the potential to add this additional game system in as well for kids to be able to participate in. And but yeah, it's still in the wouldn't it be cool if we could actually pull this off?
Yeah, and that's kind of what this list boils down to. Is there's a pile of things that are musts.
Yeah.
Then there are piles of things that are really like, and then there's a pile of things that are wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah. I'm not sure which one that's on.
No.
Somewhere in between the last two.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it just depends on whether or not we're able to get some volunteers to help out with that.
Yep. Website
is a beast, and I think that I obviously use a really simple website tool because I am not technologically minded, and I think that I'm creating something that makes sense and it's nice and logical and it's easy to follow, and then I find that players have no idea how to find a players pack. So
that's okay.
That's a work in progress.
Maybe we need to do a video
on how to use the website.
Yeah. How you find things.
Oh God.
Add another thing to the list.
Yeah. Accommodation.
For us, not you.
Well, that's one of my plans. And in the beginning you said you wanted to talk about where we want to go with this. So one of my plans is that, this does become a bit of a camp type thing. So,
Look,
it becomes 3 to 5 days where people go. We sort of all stay in the same hotel.
Look, in an ideal world, we'd be in Crown for their main ballrooms and stuff, and then you could stay at the venue. And very much like LVO was a great example of that, where you kind of stayed at the venue.
Yeah.
There's a big price tag attached to that.
There's a really big price tag attached to that, not only for the hotel rooms, but also for the venue.
For hire, yeah. It's a scary number, actually.
Yeah, so maybe we could look at, sticking with Claremont and some sort of
something
budget
nearby
hotel. But that's, I guess, what I would like to get to, the point where we're all in the same place and it becomes more of the, people go for dinner together and stay and socialise afterwards and that kind of thing, as well as spending the couple of days. So families know that June long weekend, this is gaming camp, and then people aren't going to be available for those days and come and join in and that kind of thing. But for the time being, it's just accommodation for us so that we're not having to drive for an hour in the morning and evenings. Panels, we've got a couple of panels planned for this year. So we've got the painting panels happening again, and then also a panel around different terrain, how terrain differs between casual gaming, narrative gaming, tournament gaming, and I guess terrain-heavy gaming is where George comes into it. Although George does need to know that there does need to be room on the table for models as well as terrain.
Yes, if you'd seen his Gates of Antares the last couple of years, the terrain took up significantly more space than the average. Like, I think he put Infinity to shame the first year.
Oh, yep, definitely. He loves terrain, and it's absolutely fantastic. So, and his terrain is amazing, and he will be running the terrain
workshop.
DIY workshops as well. So, yeah. Board games, we'll have board games
again, yes.
So people can trial some different board games. Cosplay, we've got a couple of different people wandering around in costume this year. And
LARP was also one on the list for this year as well.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to go. And then potentially some CCG as well.
Yeah. And there's other things that we'll get off the air and I'll go, oh, we didn't say that, or we didn't say this, or you didn't go on the list.
Of them, they're not on my list, so we need to add them to my list so I can put a little colourful tag on my Bible and start creating some more notes.
No, I think you've got enough little tabs on that book for now.
I've still got a couple of extra pages at the back.
So that list reading took probably about 15 minutes, if the timestamps on this are correct. So they're not. It's not as simple as saying you're going to run a convention, let's just do it, because there's a rabbit hole that you start sort of falling through as you start realizing what goes into running little events, let alone when you're trying to layer it like we are. Part of this opportunity for this episode was actually about sharing some of that insight. Like Emma said, if you do want to try and run something yourself, we've learned this through a bunch of trial and error.
Yeah. We've made a whole heap of mistakes.
Yep. And it's stuff that you don't realise that you need to know until you get there, basically. You haven't got trophies on that list.
Well,
Does that
that's
come
part
under
of
the tournaments thing?
Yeah.
So, in future, like Emma said, going forward, we'd love to turn it into something very much like that LVO London GT style of event where it's a destination weekend.
That's it. People come from all over Australia, literally all over the Southern Hemisphere in order to be able to
Or the world, if you want to come for a trip from the UK or America
yes,
or wherever.
Most definitely. Although it was pretty good when it was in September because the weather's not too bad.
The weather's not too bad. June's going to be
June, if you're travelling
rain.
from the UK...
You're coming to Australia for the summer and the sun, and it's not.
No, that's it. You'd be leaving your summer to come for our winter. So, and sometimes June is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, we have no idea.
Sometimes it belts it down.
Yep.
So,
but
however, we have a roof.
Yes.
So it's dry.
It's
Don't
all,
let
it's
the
all
weather
internal.
put you off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just means you're not going to be dealing with 45-degree days outside.
True.
It's not terrible.
Yeah.
You might not want to go to the beach, but...
Having said that, we're in autumn now and it's, I think it was 28 degrees and absolutely glorious. And the UK is in the middle of a heat wave with 24.
Yes.
So
our June might be balmy for you.
It might be lovely.
But yeah, so the goal is to continue to try and learn and improve and build the community.
Yeah.
And hopefully, a year or two from now have this version of it down pat with this weekend and this venue and be able to then start looking at expanding and doing some of the extra stuff that we'd really love to see happen that we haven't been able to make happen. It's not an easy thing to do, and it consumes
our life.
Basically, it consumes 3 working days a week for both of us for 6 months. And
I'd say it consumes 3 working days a week for both of us for the entire year. It's just those working days become 13 to 15 hour days.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, we work around kids and we work around the other commitments and
the fact I have a full-time job.
Yeah, the other work schedules and after-school activities and all that sort of thing. So there's a reason why you'll see us online at weird hours of the day and night. Sometimes it's dealing with suppliers from other countries, and sometimes it's just when we've got the time to do what we need to do.
Yeah.
This isn't a pity party, though. This is something that we've chosen to do and that we
we're
were
really
inspired to
about.
do. So it's, I suppose, more about letting you know why we can't answer questions immediately sometimes.
And why sometimes it takes us a while before we have the information.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
There are a lot of moving parts. There's only 2 of us, and there's
a long list.
There's a long list of different bits that we're trying to juggle all at the same time. So it's never boring.
Yeah, you can say that.
It's very stressful.
Yeah, there are plenty of times where we take turns in having their little moments of crisis.
Yeah, we do have a rule that only one of us is allowed to have a nervous breakdown at any one time, and then we shout at each other because it's my turn now.
That's not a joke, actually. That's a conversation that has been known to happen occasionally.
I have supported you long enough, okay?
My turn.
Yeah.
So that's some insight into show.
What goes into it, yeah.
And some of the weird and wonderful things that have come up over that period of time. We're not going to name volunteers because I make that mistake every time.
No, don't.
But we're going to say a big thank you to all of the volunteers, past, present,
and future.
Yep. Because the only way this event happens is with passionate people getting involved and helping and wanting to succeed and sharing our vision for what we want this event to be. So to all the volunteers who helped us in the first year, the second year, who are helping us this year and will hopefully help us in the future, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important to recognise the TOs and event organisers.
For every event.
Yeah, well, for every event in the past and current and future, because we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without having learnt from other people.
Yeah.
So we're able to try and grow and do more, because we've seen and been inspired by other people. Other people have started this work, and we're just, trying to keep it going.
Yeah. So a big thank you to everyone. We've named a few names throughout this episode, but I'm not going to try and even contemplate covering everyone.
No, I really don't like naming names for that exact reason.
Yeah. So that is showing you what we got. And hopefully we will see you for show 2019. But rather than going into a little promo, I'm going to call the topic done, and we're going to do our next 30-second spot.
Oh, God.
Which is the more corporate-focused one, which is actually going on to a few different podcasts.
Yeah, and it is the audio for one of the little Facebook videos that I've created. So I guess if,
This is the episode for these, though.
Pardon?
This is the episode to put those in.
Oh, it's so embarrassing. But there are little...
You wait until I tell her what I've got planned for after June for recording videos and stuff.
Oh, God. Can I get this out before I... There's a picture that's on Facebook, and it talks about supporting small businesses and ways that you can support them. And you can support them, obviously by buying from small businesses. And so, please buy a ticket. Come along to show. If you can't buy a ticket or you can't come along, even if you can actually, then other ways, liking and sharing our page, liking and sharing, hitting that you're coming to the event, sharing the event on your page, or, however you do that. Exactly. And when you see like the little video that's around that's got the 12 pictures about Southern Hemisphere Open and the terrible voiceover that you're about to hear, then please hit share. Share it on your page, share it on Twitter and Instagram, and share it into the groups that you're in over the world.
We broke 1,300 likes on our Facebook page.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm hoping that we hit 1,500 by show. That's just my little personal challenge.
Well, we discovered that the next magic number from Facebook, the first was 1,000. Yeah. The next is 10,000.
Yeah, so if you can help us do that, that'd be awesome. But I'm not sure that there's 10,000 people listening to this.
No.
Actually, I am sure there's not.
I was going to say the numbers don't support 10,000, but that's okay.
Yeah. But, if you can help us that way, that really does... The more people that know about this event, the more support we're able to get from... retailers and suppliers and gaming system producers, manufacturers, whatever that is called. So if you're able to help us grow it, then we can make this bigger for everyone involved.
Yeah, which means everyone gets cool stuff.
That's it. Everyone wins. Okay, that's kind of my little advertising bit that goes with it.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and let you listen to us for the second time in this episode.
So sorry.
Advertising. And we'll be right back to wrap up the episode in just a second. Hi, I'm Mike.
Hi, I'm Emma.
And we are the team from Objective Secured.
We just wanted to take a minute to let you know what you can expect from our 3rd annual Southern Hemisphere Open this year at Claremont Showgrounds, June 1 to 3.
We've got tabletop games, tournaments, intro and demo games.
Yeah, we've got workshops, panels, role-playing games.
Board games, painting competitions.
If you want to find out more, you can follow us at objectivesecured.com.au or Objective Secured on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram.
Southern Hemisphere Open, 1-2-3 June, Claremont Showgrounds.
Happy gaming, everyone.
Okay, so you've heard the two promo clips, the first one for the Blood Bowl podcasts and the second one, which is the generic one. Mm-hmm. The Blood Bowl one was really fun for me to do because watching Emma get embarrassed when it's just the two of us in the house with her making silly voices.
Yep.
That was fun. I took great delight in sharing that to our patrons page, letting everyone listen to it and have a little bit of a laugh. Mm-hmm. So if you do happen to hear either of those, feel free to post on the Facebook page or let us know where you heard it, because they are going to show up in different podcasts and videos and different bits and pieces, which is kind of cool. I know you're embarrassed, but...
So embarrassed.
Look, I want to do I've been inspired. I've been watching a lot of Penny Arcade live D&D videos from the early 2010s all the way through to the most recent PAX ones. And I want to do a YouTube series on a D&D game. Live, like recorded, like 2 or 3 hour videos where we play D&D. I say we, doesn't have to include you, because the look I'm getting on that face is no, I don't want to do that.
I'm trying to contain my excitement.
But
I seem to be managing.
Getting to ham it up in front of the camera and tell a story.
Oh my God.
What? You don't want to do that?
You know I embarrass so easily.
Okay, well, you don't have to do it. I'll get some friends. If you're interested in getting involved in doing some 5th Ed D&D or I don't know what game system yet. That's just the first one because that's what I've been watching. That could be a lot of fun to record and put online with different video edits and whatnot. We're also going to be stepping up the video side of things for our YouTube channel in the second half of this year once we're past show.
Yeah, we need to get past show, and once we do, we've got some interesting plans. So I have about a half dozen workshops that I have got planned to write and create for the patrons page.
Yep.
And so that's kind of on my list.
Shameless plug, if you want to support us on Patreon, head to patreon.com/Objective Secured. You could find us there.
Perfect. Then I'm also really passionate about creating an OBSEC dungeon and regular hangout.
When she says dungeon, she means an actual gaming venue.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Not a literal dungeon, necessarily.
I'd be happy if it was a literal dungeon. I'm not fussy. It just needs to be more than 400 square metres. Preferably close to a train and bus line and with adequate parking. So not asking for much at all. So, yeah, I'm really passionate about creating that. And I've got a couple of different things that I want to do for that. Then you obviously want to get more of the recording done for
I want to move
games.
out into media and do some more coverage, not just of 40k, but of other games. I really like the idea of doing a couple of hours. Like, the videos couldn't be that regular because of the time involved, particularly the editing side of things. But doing a live D&D session that gets recorded and gives a few, if we get the right people involved, we could have a really fun, interesting campaign that's recorded and streamed. So, yeah, we've got a whole bunch of different ideas. So if you're interested in getting involved in any of the media side of stuff,
let us know after show.
You can send it through now.
I wouldn't, because I'll lose it.
Well, it's good it comes to my laptop as well as yours, so...
You're terrible as well.
I file things, it's fine.
Yeah,
you can email
under
us...
A for A bin.
You can email us at obsec@optusnet.com.au, or you can hit us up on Facebook or your usual connection points, and we will...
I suggest after the 15th of June.
I suggest whenever you feel like it.
And we are getting ready to go to Brisbane.
Yep. So we've got one more live session after this episode before we get on a plane the following day. And we're going to be there for the Warhammer GT finals at Mount Gravatt in Brisbane. We're actually going as part of the Warhammer Heroes awards process. They gave us an option for Chicago, London, or Brisbane. And while we both picked either of the two former, the latter was financially viable.
Well, it was, and it was made financially viable thanks to...
Bodie and the GoFundMe page that he set up, which was amazing. It's basically covered... it covered most of the flights or all of the accommodation and the hire car that we need for the 3 days.
Depending on which way you look at it.
Yeah.
So,
it certainly alleviated the financial burden for us to actually be able to go and be involved, which was fantastic. So thank you very much to everyone who donated for that.
Yes. Very much appreciated.
But we're going to try and live stream as much as we're allowed to while we're at the store, and hopefully get some video interviews that we can share with the staff that are coming over. We haven't been...
Man, I'm going to have to brush my hair.
Yes, you are. I'm going to have to shave. So we're going to do as much as we are allowed to do.
Yep.
We don't know. We haven't got an itinerary yet.
Oh.
So
we haven't.
We don't really know whether it's Friday night or Saturday night or...
We're hoping it's not Sunday night.
No, we fly home Sunday. But we're going to be there for a couple of days and going to use it as a bit of R&R for the two of us before we come back.
I'm not sure when you're planning on fitting the R&R in, but, it'll be...
We'll get some time.
Yeah.
And hopefully catch up with some friends while we're there as well. So it's going to be a whirlwind few days, but it's going to be good to get away, just the two of us.
But if you happen to be around Mount Gravatt for the weekend for the GT, then say hello to us.
Yep, we'll be there with matching OBSEC T-shirts, which hopefully get delivered this week.
Yeah, I'm generally quite easy to spot because...
One of the few women in the room?
Yes.
I'm the loud one.
Yes. Yes, you are.
Nothing like a wife defending her husband. That's great.
Just call it like I see it.
All right. This episode has gone over now, despite Emma's best efforts, because you read your list.
I shouldn't have read my list.
You shouldn't have read your list.
I'm really proud of my Bible.
I know. She's already shared some photos on the Facebook page with it. I might even try and find that photo and put that in the show notes as well.
I might take another one because I had to label all of my coloured tabs because it was too hard trying to work out which tab related to which section.
It reminds me of those movies where you see people studying for a test, and so they build a timetable for how they're going to study for the test, and then they have to build a list of how they're going to do each of the study sessions.
Are you suggesting I'm procrastinating?
Yes. In some method, yes. The rest of us just stick our heads in the sand and don't do it. You make lists.
I do make lists. But then when I have a list, that's how I get everything out of my head and onto paper, and that's why we have things like table numbers.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole again.
I know, but I just really like it.
Yeah. Thank you
and
very much.
TOs for all of the events.
Shush. I've acknowledged that failing last year. Leave me alone. Anyway, we're done for another episode.
Yes, we are.
Thank you very much for bearing with us and listening to some of the stuff about show and what's been going on and how we handle some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you might not see.
Yeah. Can I just add one more thing in?
Sure.
If you have any questions around, I guess, some of the stuff that goes on in the background, we would love to hear what those questions are. And also, somebody has suggested that we do a panel, that you and I do a panel for show, but I don't really know what we would actually talk about. So if anybody is interested in hearing us jabber on a bit more at show.
Well, it basically just becomes one of the live sessions that we do on Facebook and this mashed together.
So anyway, if anybody has any questions around that or what we could potentially talk about, let me know. But right now I have to stop talking because our kids have just arrived home and they're at the front door.
Okay. Well, we'll see you for the next episode.
Happy gaming, everyone.
You've been listening to the Objective Secured podcast. If you'd like to get in touch, you can visit our website, objectivesecured.com.au. You can find us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Objective Secured, or you can email us, obsec@optusnet.com.au. Thanks for listening.